Listener discretion is advised. Today's episode covers the case of Christopher Walrath and the tragic death of inmate Robert Brooks at the Marcy Correctional Facility in upstate New York. In December 2024, 36-year-old corrections officer Christopher Walrath was on duty at the Marcy. On December 9th, an inmate named Robert Brooks, serving a 12-year sentence for first-degree assault, was transferred to this facility. Within hours, Brooks was brutally beaten while handcuffed. Body camera footage shows officers striking him, including being hit in the chest with a shoe, lifted by the neck, and dropped to the ground. Brooks was transported to St. Elizabeth Medical Center in Utica, New York, later that day in critical condition, and he tragically died the next day. On December 10th, 2024, the Onondaga County Medical Examiner's Office ruled the death a homicide caused by blunt force injuries. Reports indicate Brooks ultimately choked on his own blood. This death is part of a larger troubling context. In 2019, about 1,200 deaths occurred in local jails in the U.S., with a mortality rate roughly 167 per 100,000 inmates. State prisons saw 3,853 deaths, and a 2021 DOJ report suggested nearly 1,000 deaths in custody may have been undercounted. Another case underscores systematic concerns. In 2023, 19-year-old Isaiah Trammell in Ohio died in custody at the Montgomery County Jail following an arrest and booking. His family later filed a wrongful death lawsuit, which is pending. This 19-year-old had autism. All he was wearing when dying was a green suicide watch vest. He had no other clothes on, and he was barefoot on a cold floor in the jail in an isolation cell. He banged his head on the wall several times due to his anxiety and suffered brain damage, which caused his death. Following the death of Brooks, video and body cam footage was released by New York's Office of Special Investigations, known as OSI. These videos documented parts of the assault and the injuries. A total of 19 officials were tied to a criminal probe in New York. 13 officers, 4 sergeants, and 2 nurses. All 17 officers and sergeants were suspended without pay. The nurses faced no disciplinary action. Onondaga County District Attorney William Fitzpatrick presented the case to a grand jury at the Oneida County Supreme Court in Utica, which returned an indictment against 10 officers. For Nicholas Anzalone, second-degree murder, first-degree manslaughter, and offering a false instrument. For David Kinsley II, second-degree murder, first-degree manslaughter. For Anthony Farina, second-degree murder and first-degree manslaughter. For Christopher Walrath, second-degree murder. For Matthew Gallagher, second-degree murder, first-degree manslaughter, and second-degree gang assault. For Michael Mashaw, second-degree manslaughter. The same for Michael Fisher and David Walters. For Nicholas Gentile, evidence tampering, Class E. For Nicholas Kiefer, second-degree murder and first-degree manslaughter. They all faced felonies, and only felonies. Once the indictments were unsealed, the 10 officers were fired from their positions. The remaining personnel had their suspensions lifted. All 10 defendants surrendered to the Oneida County Jail, accompanied by their private attorneys. At their first appearance before Judge Robert Bauer, they all pleaded not guilty. The judge set a bond of $250,000. which was posted shortly after, resulted in their release. On May 5, 2025, Christopher Walrath pleaded guilty to manslaughter, reducing his charge from second-degree murder. Judge Bauer immediately sentenced him to 15 years in prison. Days later, on May 14th, Nicholas Gentile pleaded guilty to a reduced charge of attempted evidence tampering and received a 1-year conditional discharge. Michael Mishaw and David Walters pleaded guilty to their charges on September 22, 2025. Nicholas Anzalone and Anthony Farina also pleaded guilty to manslaughter, dismissing other charges. In October 2025, three officers, David Kinsley, Matthew Gallagher, and Nicholas Kiefer, went to trial before a 12-member jury with one alternate. David Kinsley was found guilty of second-degree murder and first-degree manslaughter, while the other two were acquitted. Nicholas Gentile is currently free under supervision. Christopher Walrath is serving his sentence at the Clinton State Prison in Dannemora, New York. He was taken into custody immediately after sentencing, following a brief stay at the Oneida County Jail. The four other officers reached plea deals and are currently free awaiting sentencing, which is scheduled for November 21st, 2025. David Kinsley remains in custody at the Oneida County Jail awaiting sentencing. Michael Fisher is expected to go to trial in January 2026. Most matters remain pending, and this story will continue in part 2. Thank you for listening. May the victim rest in peace and have a good rest of your day.